Welcome, everybody. Welcome to day one of AWS Cloud Computing Bootcamp. You're welcome. So, today we are going to be looking at cloud computing, right? I'm certain that we have all heard about cloud computing, what it is. Some of us might even be wondering cloud computing. What is this concept all about? Well, today is the day you get to know what cloud computing is. And so you will see is not as big as we have thought it to be. So let's quickly get right down into it. What is cloud computing? Right? So, what is cloud computing? Cloud computing is simply the use of computer resources over the internet. Now, when I say computer resources, what do I mean? I mean your resources like your storage, which includes your RAM, your ROM, resources like your processor. This here includes your CPU, resources like your network. So, when we make use of these resources over the internet, in a nutshell, that is what cloud computing is. Now, if that still hasn't stuck, let's give a visual example. Say, for example, you say for example you have a system, right? You have a system, and your system is, give for example, i3, core i3. If you're using a Windows system, core i3 RAM should be about 4 gig, while your RAM is about 256. Now, if someone tells you upgrade your system, what comes to mind is they are saying you should change from a 4 gig to maybe a 16 gig RAM, right? Now, in this scenario, we are buying physical hardware. But when we transpose this into virtual resources, that means, let me say, a RAM that you can't see. That is cloud computing in a nutshell. We'll still get back to this. Now, as in everything, in every field, there are some terminologies one needs to get acclimatized to. In the engineering field, you have words like, let me say, for example, in the offshore field, rig, pipe, welding, and all of that. Likewise, in cloud computing, we have some terminologies that we need to get familiar with. Now, this first terminology that I want us to take note of is what we call data center. Now, what is a data center? A data center is simply physical buildings containing IT infrastructure. This infrastructure includes servers, storage, and networks. We have availability zone, mostly called AZ, in short, AZ. Now, an AZ is comprised of one or more physically separate data centers. Say you have two data centers, one in location A and the other in location B. That is an availability zone. Then the next terminology I want us to know today is what we call regions. Now, what is a region? A region is simply a physical location. It is an independent physical location offering different sets of cloud services. Now, say it this way: a data center, say for example, in your room or in your office, you have servers, multiple servers connected together and are communicating with each other. We can call that a data center. Now, let me say you have a particular state. Let's use Nigeria as an example. You have your office in Lagos, you have another branch at Abuja, and you have another branch at Port Harcourt, located at Port Harcourt. Now, you have this infrastructure, these data centers in these three different locations. We can call Port Harcourt, Lagos, and Abuja an availability zone because in these three locations, we have data centers present, while a region can be seen as an independent location offering different sets of what? Cloud services. Now, let's go back to our definition of cloud computing. If you recall, we defined cloud computing as the use of computer resources over the internet. Remember, yeah? So, these data centers, or let me say, for example, I'm certain that we've heard of cloud computing. So, can you just drop in the comments what you thought cloud computing was before now? And also, I would like to know the states that you are viewing this particular bootcamp day one from. Let's quickly do that on our comments. So, first off, I want you to write what you thought cloud computing is before now, and also where you are viewing from: the states, Lagos, Abuja, US, Canada, UK, country, state-wise. If you're in Nigeria, do well to drop that in the comments. Let's quickly get to that. So, I remember then I was having this conversation with somebody, and he said, "Cloud computing is it not above, like in the sky?" I'm certain that some of us have that particular, or have heard of that particular definition before, but that is so not it. Yeah, cloud computing is simply the use of computer resources over the internet. Now, we have also looked at cloud terminologies. We've seen data center, availability zone, and what? Regions. So let's get down to it. Now, the next slide here we have is advantages of cloud computing. As we know, if I have a particular device, say I'm using a Samsung phone, and Samsung releases a new version or a new model of the Samsung phone, before I go for that new model, there has to be some advantage or some advantages that the new model offers that my current phone does not, right? So if someone tells you, come and use the cloud, come and use the cloud, why should you come and use the cloud? What are the advantages that this cloud computing offers to you that you're not already enjoying with the system you have, right? So let's quickly get down to it. First, we have here is cost efficiency. In cloud computing, you pay as you go. You don't pay for a particular service that you're not going to use or you're not going to exhaust. You pay as you go. If you use 2 MB, you pay for 2 MB. If you have need for 4 MB, you pay for 4 MB storage space. So that is the pricing model in the cloud computing concept. You pay as you go. Cloud computing is cost efficient. Second is scalability and elasticity. You easily scale resources up and down instantly to meet demand, preventing over provisioning. Let me give an instance of this. I'm sure most of us here shop online. We use Jumia, or better still, our favorite streaming service, Netflix. If you are a movie freak like me and like some of us here, you will agree with me that late last year, say October, November, December, Netflix released blockbuster movies. By blockbuster movies, I mean Stranger Things, right? They released Stranger Things and some other blockbuster movies. Now, during the release of these movies, what happened? Netflix gained traction, meaning that more people trooped into Netflix service or the Netflix website or the application as a whole to stream these movies. What does that mean? That means that Netflix have to what? Meet this new traction. So in cloud computing, instead of Netflix to manually add servers to meet this traction or meet this demand, with cloud computing it auto scales. Once cloud computing notice that, okay, the traction coming in is too much, and the existing infrastructure, by infrastructure here I mean the existing servers, cannot meet the demand of this traction, of this traffic, what does it do? It simply what? Adds new services, right? So That is scalability and elasticity. With cloud computing, you easily manage resources up and down instantly to meet demand. Next is enhanced security. In the cloud, you are extremely secure. You benefit from advanced security measures and expertise from large providers, often exceeding what individual companies can provide, can manage. Big players like Netflix, Spotify, Snapchat, they all use what? Cloud computing services like AWS, which stands for Amazon Web Service. I'm sure we know of Amazon, the shopping site where you can go to buy items. Yes, I'm talking about that Amazon, but this time around, not the shopping kind. I'm talking about AWS, Amazon Web Service. Big players like Spotify, Netflix, they use um, cloud computing services like Amazon. Now, imagine a structure that meets the demand of Spotify, Netflix, and Snapchat. Then what about us? I mean, if they can meet the demand of such big players, that means surely they can meet our security demands. So let's look at more advantages. So there are more advantages than compared to this number. Just decided to list out this. So we're going to look at what we call basic Linux command today. So that's what we are going to look at today. Basic Linux command, because for us to be able to interact with cloud computing, you're simply interacting with servers, right? So we have to understand the language in which servers communicate in, and that's what we call some people call it bashing, some people call it scripting, but we're going to term it Linux command. Now, why am I saying Linux commands? I'm sure you know of the different operating systems we have out there. We have Windows, we have Microsoft, we have Windows, Microsoft, the same thing. We have Mac, we have Linux. Now, the reason why we are focusing on Linux is because Linux is open source. And most at times, the servers you will meet during this course, during this cloud computing DevOps journey, are going to be Linux servers because they are what? Open source. By open source, I mean you don't have to pay to use them, right? So I'm going to look at the basic Linux commands. On the screen here, I have some commands that I have listed, but we're going to see them in practice. Now, again, I'll take this one more time. The reason why we are doing this is because during this bootcamp, we are going to work with servers. And for us to work with servers, we need to communicate in a language that those servers will understand. So we're going to look at the basic Linux commands. So let's quickly get right down into it. So I'll quickly share my screen. And please note, I'm using a Windows machine. So I'm going to be using PowerShell. If you're using a Mac machine, you can simply open your terminal. Both the commands that will work here will also work on your terminal. So it's a cross-platform command. So they are going to work either ways. Either you're using a Mac system or you are using a Windows system. So let's quickly get right down into it. Okay. So I'll quickly go to my search bar and I'll search for PowerShell. So I have my PowerShell command right here. I have my PowerShell command right here. So this is my PowerShell command terminal. I mean, sorry about that. So I will zoom in so that we can see it properly. So I also like you to comment if my zoom size is okay, if it's visible, if you're seeing it clearly. Now, let's take a walk down memory lane, or let's just go back in time. Before systems before system became advanced to this level where we can easily see symbols, signs that represent something. Example, this is a file, right? So before system advanced to this stage where you can simply click on this icon, it will close, click here to minimize, we were using what we call CLI. And by CLI, I mean command line interface, right? So every operation that you can perform on your GUI here means graphical user interface. By GUI, let me give examples of the operation I mean. Let me say I want to create a folder, right? I'll simply go to um my Windows desktop. I'll right click and click on new, a folder. I'll create a folder, right? If I want to delete, um, I'll come here, right click, and I can, okay, confirm this. If I want to delete, I'll come here and I'll delete, right? And that's gone. Very easy, right? Before system became advanced to that level, we were using this terminal to do every operation, to perform every operation. Operation ranging from creating a file, creating a folder, moving a file, copying a file, pasting a file, deleting a folder. Even writing into a file, we're using this command line. We're using command line to perform all of this operation. So we're going to look at the command line commands that we have for today, and we're going to see how to create a folder, create a file, write into a file, delete a folder, delete a file. Let's get right down into it. I'll quickly split my screen so that we will really understand what's happening here. Now, let's take a look at this. Now, this C here, right? You are seeing this C. This is still the same thing as my local disk. As you can see, my local disk here, which is my C drive. That is it here. Now, if I open my C drive, I will see a folder called users, right? That is the folder here, users. Now, if I move into users, I will definitely see a folder called what? Obed. And that is this folder here. So as you can see, local disk C, users, Obed, same path I have here, same folder names I have here. Now, the first command we want to see is, remember, for me to see the content of this folder, Obed, I had to what? Right click. I had to double click. So that is open the folder. Now, on our command line, if I want to see the content of a folder, ls. So with ls, I will need to maximize this guy. So with ls, I will see the content of the folder Obed. So let's quickly see that. As you can see, I have this folder called .aws.born.chocolatey. Let's quickly confirm from here. As you can see, .aws.born.chocolatey.docker. As you can see, all of these folders I have here, I have them listed here. So with ls, we see the content of a folder. Now, this is the Obed folder. I want to move into documents. This is the way we know. This is how we know how to do it. I want to use what we know to understand what we are learning, right? So if I want to move into a folder on my GUI, on my desktop screen, I'll simply do what? Double click, right? If I double click, I am now inside document. So if I move over to my PowerShell, just to relate it, if I want to move into a folder, what folder do I want to move into? I want to move into document folder, right? And here it is. I want to move into this folder. In this terminal, we can't just double click. Nah, we can't do that. So we have to learn of the command that we need to enter into a folder. And that command is cd. cd here means change directory. That means I want to change directory from my existing directory, which is Obed. And please note, when I use a word or a term directory, I'm referring to a folder. I want to change directory from my existing directory, which is obed, to what? To the directory called what? Documents. So I'll quickly do that and quickly do that. So right here, I'll say cd documents. Please note, documents is spelled with capital D. I have to take note of that. So now I am inside document. Remember, if I want to see the content of document, recall how we did it previously, ls. With ls, which means list subfolders, I will see the content of document, right? So let me quickly, so this is still obed. Let me quickly scroll down to where we are. So this is documents. In documents, I can find folders like AWS CSAA code main, AWS August, AWS Today, books. Let's confirm that. I'll move over to my file manager. I'm in documents. I have folders like AWS August, AWS CSS code main, same folders I have here. I'm finding them here also. That means I am in the right path. Now, we've seen how to move into a folder, that is change directory. We've seen how to list the content of a folder. Now, let's see how to create a folder. So we're going to create a folder. So the command to create a folder is mkdir, then the name of the folder. So I'm going to create a folder for us for this class. So I'll call this, for this bootcamp, I'll call this AWS bootcamp. Now, if I create it, my folder has been created. This is the creation time, 7:26. As you can see, my time here, 7:26. Let's go and confirm the creation of that folder. As you can see, right here, I have AWS Bootcamp. Likewise, look at the time. This folder was created at 7:26 p.m., right? So we have created a folder called AWS Bootcamp. Now, what I want to do is I want to move into AWS Bootcamp. What do? I will simply do cd AWS Bootcamp. Please remember the A here is capital letter. I have to take note of that. If I use small letter A here, it will not go through because a folder created with capital A and small a are not the same. So AWS Bootcamp, now I am in that directory. I am now inside AWS Bootcamp. At the moment, my Bootcamp folder is what? It is empty, right? It is empty. Please, if you have questions, you can do well to drop them in the comment section. You are rest assured that you will get responses as soon as possible. So do well to drop your questions. And if you are just joining us, I would like to know the states, the country where you're watching from. Do well to drop that in the comments. And also, I would like to know what you had as the definition of cloud computing before now. All right, let's get down to it. Remember, last thing we did was to move into AWS Bootcamp, right? Now I'm in AWS Bootcamp, and as you can see here, my AWS Bootcamp folder, it's empty. What do I want to do? I want to create a file or I want to create a folder. Let's see how to create a file. I'm going to create a simple file here. I'm going to create a text file. So how do we create that? Now note, there are various ways to create files across different terminals, right? So we're going to stick with new item for today. For this particular session, there are various commands to create a file. So I will go with new item. Now, new item, then I will name the file. What do I want to name this file? I want to name this file first. Now, what differentiates a file from a folder? A folder is more like a container that houses files. That is the first differences. Second can be A file has an extension. By extension, yeah, I mean what you normally see in files. If this were to be a Word document file, you'll be seeing stuff like .docs, docs. If this were to be a PDF file, it would be .pdf. If this were to be a movie or a video file, you will see .mp4. If this were to be a music file or an audio file, .mp3. So the dots and what comes after the dots, that defines the file to be what it is. So the extension of the file defines the file to be what it is. So again, and the main difference and that difference between a folder and a file can be said to be the extension. Files have an extension, while folders do not have an extension, right? So I will create a file. What kind of file? A text file. I will create a text file. I will say first.txt and enter. I have an error here. New item. Sorry, this is meant to be hyphen and not an underscore. So that's why I had the red line, the red text screaming at me. As you can see, the term new item is not recognized. So it is new hyphen item. All right. My file name is first.txt and voila, our file is created. Let's confirm that. I'll move over to my file manager. And as you can see here, I have my file, which is a text document. I'll quickly open this file. And as you can see, it is what? Empty. Now, let me write into a file. Again, there are various ways we can write into a file, right? But for this particular section, I'm going to use echo, right? I'm going to use echo. So echo is more like me shouting or me printing. This is what I want to print into the file. So I want to print today is my first, or I want to write into the file. Today is my um first day, or let's just say cloud computing bootcamp day one, right? So cloud computing day one. As you can see, I have this. Now, there is every possibility that in this directory called AWS Bootcamp, I will have more than one file. So I need to specify which particular file do I want to write this text into. So I will pass in two arrows here. So I'm passing, sorry, passing two arrows here. There's angle brackets. Now, which file do I want to write this text into? I want to write them into first.txt. Now, if I move or if I head over to first.txt and I open it, as you can see, Cloud Computing Bootcamp day one. Seems like I didn't write that properly. But as you can see, I have the text Cloud Computing Bootcamp day one. So that is how I'm able to write into a file. Now I can create a folder. Let me create a new folder in this directory. I'll call this mkdir and I'll say I want to call this test folder. Remember, we use the mkdir, which stands for make directory. So if I move, all of these are in our slides. So I'll quickly just reference our slides so that you will see these commands and their use cases. So I'll quickly reference our slides. Okay, so as you can see, all of these commands, they are here. So ls used to see the content of a folder, mkdir used to create a new directory, and rat term for what? For folder. ROM will look at this, cat will look at this, new item used to create a new file. So we've seen commands 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's look at other commands like RM and RMDIR. Okay, so heading over back to my screen, my PowerShell terminal, so that you will learn more about Linux commands. So let's get right down to it. All right. So right here, I want to create a new folder, right? mkdir test. Mkdir here stands for make directory. So I want to create this. I have that. Now ls, let me see what and what I have inside my AWS Bootcamp folder. I have folder text and I have a file first.txt. Let's quickly go over to the visuals. I have this, I have this. Now I want to create a new file, right? I'll say new item, a new file. I'll call this file second.txt. And also I'll write into the file. Remember, echo in quotes, you write the text you want to write into the file. I am writing into my second file, right? Then outside the quotes, you specify two angle brackets. Then you name the file you want to write into. I want to write into second.txt. Now, instead of us reading our file through this, through the visuals, through the GUI, through our desktop, I want to read our file on our command line, on our terminal. How do I do that? Cat. So cat is used to read a file. So I'll say cat second.txt. This means I want to read the content of second.txt. As you can see here, this is the content. I am writing into my second file, right? So we can also see how to delete a file, delete a folder. But before that, I want us to see how to copy and paste, or let me say move. You know, you have cut and paste. Cut and paste is more like you moving. Then you have copy and paste. When you copy, you are more like duplicating. So let's see how to move. So for us to move, the command for move is or let me say copy, and either of them, either move or copy. So I'll do cp. Cp means copy. I want to copy, or you can say copy item, either cp or copy item. Let me use this. I think this is more explanatory. This is more understandable. So copy item, which file do I want to copy? Now let's do this. Say I want to copy second file into test folder. At the moment, test folder is what? It is empty, right? So let's quickly see that. So copy item, which file am I copying? Second.txt, right? Then what destination? I have copied this file. Good, fine. Which destination do I want to copy it into? I want to copy this file into test, right? I want to copy second.txt into text. Now let's look at this. So if I come here now, I will so if I come here now, as you can see, I have second here. Then in my test folder, I also have what? Second. What I have done is I have simply copied second from AWS Bootcamp into the test folder. So how do we copy again? You copy by copy item, you specify the text, the file you want to copy, the next, the destination part. Where do you want to copy this file into? So that's for copy. We also have move. Move is more like cutting and pasting. So move, I would say move item. Which item am I moving? I want to move first from here into TST. Now, when I move first will no longer exist in this particular folder. Rather, first will now exist in test folder. Hope that makes sense, right? So let's quickly do this. Move item, which item? First.tst. Where am I moving it into? I am moving it into what? Test. Now let's quickly go back here and check. If I head over back to AWS Bootcamp, as you can see, I no longer have first.txt. Rather, if I move into test folder, I will now see the file I moved and the file I copied. So let's do a recap. We have seen how to create a folder, create a file, copy, write into a file, move into a file. Now, one thing I want to say is I understand most of these concepts might be new, but be very rest assured that over time, if you practice this, go over to the recording of this video, watch it, practice it, you will get used to it. It will just be at your fingertips. That I promise you. Over time, it will make more sense. So let's quickly see how to delete. Let's see. All right. We are back. So as I was saying, screen- as I was saying, we've seen how to copy, move, and all of these concepts might be new or they are new. Over time, it will make more sense, right? So let's quickly see how to delete a file and a folder. Now, I want to see the contents of the files and folders I have inside this AWS Bootcamp LS. At the moment, I have second.txt and I have test. So I'll quickly create a new folder here. mkdir arrow, I'll call this one time folder because I'll delete this folder soon. One time folder. So right here, I have this one time folder. I just want to show us how to delete. Now, how we delete a folder is by using the command RMDIR, which stands for remove directory. Which directory do I want to remove? I want to remove the directory called one time folder. So if I do this, now before I initiate the command, as you can see, I have my folder here. If I do this, delete, enter by pressing enter. How you run the commands is just by pressing down on your return key. That's your enter button. All right, so if I do this, okay, to remove the directory, as you can see, I'll head back to my visuals and the folder is not there. Now, let's see how to delete a file. Remember, folder is RMDIR, which stands for remove directory, while a file is simply remove rm. Which file do I want to remove? I want to remove this file called second.txt. So I'll quickly get here and do second.txt, right? So voila, our file is gone. And what we have here is just a test folder that has the folder we moved and the folder we copied. So That is that on Linux commands. As you can see, it's quite simple, right? But I understand this might be the first time. Over time, it will make more sense. That I assure you, with constant practice, with constant um, exposure, constant repetition, it will make more sense. Now, one might ask, is this all we are here for? No, 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 no. Now we're going to see how to create our AWS Amazon Web Service account, right? I'm sure this is why you're here, for you to be able to use AWS, for you to be able to create servers in the cloud, use servers in the cloud, right? So I'll quickly get right down to it. Right here, we are going to, you can find this link on in the description of this video. The link will be there, or you can simply search on your browser AWS free tier. Right now, the reason I'm going for free tier is because AWS offers 6 months free tier service or free tier package to users. So it makes no sense for us to be paying for this when we are not yet making money out of it. So we are learning. We need to be under the free tier coverage, right? So don't worry, you're not going to spend a dime. So let's create a free tier account. Very simple. Now, I will implore you, I will encourage you to please create your account because by tomorrow we are going to begin using our AWS account. Right? So, for you to follow along properly, for you to follow along and not be left back, you need to have your account set and ready. Now, the process is no brainer, is no rocket science, is simply a straightforward process, but I will walk us down through it. So create an account. You need an email address. You need your name. I mean, all of the details you need to register. So I'll quickly come here and they're telling me to sign up. I don't want to sign up. I want to create. I want to create an account. They routed me to okay. Create account. So again, like I said, you can always find this the link in the description. Route me use for okay, seems like let me just open a new window, a private browser, so that it won't show me what's happening there is just taking my already existing account. So let me just do this from here. Still the same thing. Okay, sign up for AWS. Oh, sign up for AWS. So I'll quickly come here and put in my email address. So say my email address is I don't have any existing mail. Say wait. So you come here, put in your email address. You can put a name, your name. So verify email. They will send a code to your mail. Now, once that code is sent to your mail, the OTP, you come here, you paste, you verify. It's a simple, a straightforward process. Is nothing difficult, right? So by tomorrow, I will implore that you have your account ready and up because by tomorrow, we are going to be looking at instances. I'm certain you have wondered how people do host websites. How is it that someone can create a website and then we just host it, make it publicly accessible, publicly accessible to everybody, right? I'm sure you've wondered that. By tomorrow, we're going to be looking at my face, the service responsible for hosting websites, right? That is the AWS EC2 instance. So by tomorrow, we are going to look at that. So that's why I'll need you to create your account, get your account ready. And one more thing, the commands that we use today, I will create a Google Sheet and I will put those commands there and you will find the link in the comments. So you can easily reference to those commands so that you can more like a revision, right? So that will be that for today. And like I said, tomorrow we're going to dive right down deep into how to use AWS services. So, like I said, if you have any question, do well to drop them in the comments. And I would like to know where you're viewing from, where you're watching from. And also, I would like to know the definition of cloud computing you had before today. So thank you for staying with us, for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow where we'll look at how to host and possibly we might create a website tomorrow.